Welcome to the workshop. We want to take a look at one more time at section 1.1, time to complete a project. So we've taken our list of tasks, how long it takes to complete each individual task, and the preceding tasks, and we've created a diagram, a nice picture that represents this information or shares all of this same information. And we want to use this diagram to help us determine how long it's going to take to complete the entire project, assuming we start each task as soon as that can be started. So let's take a look at the diagram that we created last time. Now I asked you guys to go ahead and copy that diagram down, so hopefully you did that on the second half of the page. So we created our diagram once, and then just to make sure we have a couple copies of it, not writing too much on one, we have this second version. So without the arrowheads, that's fine. We know we move from left to right. And then what we're going to do is next to each one of these labels, right, next to each task, we're going to write down how much time has passed at the completion of that particular task. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to grab a different color here. Having the same color is fine. And next to each task, I'm going to write down how long it takes to complete everything up to that point. So in order to complete task A, right, nothing precedes it. So it's going to take 4 days for us to complete task A. Now, when we go to task B, we've already passed 4 days, right? 4 days have passed. So now after 4 days, we can begin project B, or task B rather. And so 3 additional days pass before we can finish task B. So 4 days have passed. And then we can begin B, which takes 3 days, which brings us to a total of 7 days passed by the time we get to by the time we have finished task B. Now, if we were to go on to task D, we would notice that it's preceded by both B and C. So I know 7 days have passed before I'm done with B, and I might be able to start D, but the question is am I actually done with C yet? So I also have to determine, well, am I done with C? When am I done with C? So again, it takes 4 days to complete A, and after 4 days, we can begin task C, and then it takes 5 days to complete it. So 4 days pass, then an additional 5 days pass to give us a total of 9 days pass before we complete task C. So now that we have that, we can talk about how long it's going to take before we will have completed task D. For task D, it cannot begin until both B and C are done. They aren't both done until day 9, because day 9 comes after day 7, of course. So B is done at day 7, C is done at day 9. Now we can begin task D. Task D takes 3 days to complete, so 3 days beyond day 9 would bring us to day 12. Day 12, it is complete. Now let's see, I can move on to F if I want to. After 12 days, I can begin task F because that's the only thing preceding it. So 2 days after day 12 is day 14. But I can't go and talk about G until I have E determined. How long do I have to wait for E to be done? Let's see here. So 9 days pass before C is done, which allows me to move on to task E. Another day beyond that would bring us to day 10. And now I can take a look at how long it's going to complete task, or when task G will be done. We already know it's only going to take 1 day. So which is further along, or which do I have to wait for? Do I have to wait for task E, or do I have to wait for task F? Those are both of the dependencies, right? Those have to happen before I can start G, but which one am I really waiting on? E is done at day 10. F isn't done until day 14. So I'm waiting until F is done before I can begin G. G takes an additional day longer, so 14. Another day brings us to day 15. H is only preceded by F, so day 14, add a couple of, after 14 days, you can start task H. Task H takes 2 days, so that brings us to day 16. So then when do we bill the customer? We bill the customer on day, 16 or 15? When are all of the things done? On day 16. So it's going to take 16 days to complete the project. And that's exactly what this question is asking right here. How many days does it take to complete finishing the basement? Right, we took this diagram and removed all the context from it. So that diagram maybe allowed us to forget that we're talking about refinishing a basement. So it takes 16 days to refinish the basement. And how did we answer that? Well, we answered that by creating this thing. This thing is actually called a PERT diagram. Let's see here. I think that's on, yep, down here. So this is called a PERT diagram. What does PERT stand for? It stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technique. So that's pretty interesting there. You can read a little bit more about that in the text. Where was it first used? All right, so we have that it takes 16 days. We can pull a little bit more information from this. And what we can do is we can find a list of tasks that really determine how long it's going to take. So what I'm going to notice here is that A, right, 4 days, that's where I start. Got to start there. That's the only thing with nothing preceding it. Before or following that, right, it's C that takes us the longest. And actually, you know what? Let's determine the critical path working backwards, or this path we'll find to be called the critical path. My apologies. We're going to start at the end. Why? Because it's a little bit easier to explain where we're getting our numbers from. I couldn't bill the customer until day 16. Why? Why day 16? Because I had to wait for H to be done. G was already done at day 15, but I couldn't bill the customer until H was done. Okay, so I pick H because this depended on that being done. Now, H, of course, only has the one dependency of F. So that task had to be completed before H. F has only the dependency of D. Now, D depends on two things, right? Or B and C have to be done before I could have moved on to D. And which one did I have to wait for? Well, I had to wait for task C to be done. And then before I could complete task C, I had to wait for task A to be done. So this collection of tasks are the collection of tasks that determine exactly those 16 days, right? 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16, plus 0 is the 16, right? Those are the ones that give us that total of 16 days. If I go ahead and let's see here, I'm going to make this kind of light colored, and I want to, let's go with a hard light, and we're gonna go yellow and really wide point here. Okay, so what I wanna do is I wanna notice that when I go from this task down to here, up to here, right, this is the path of tasks that determined how long it's going to take to complete the project. This path is called a critical path, right? It is the one that determines how long. So what we do is we write down the sequence of tasks, and that is called the critical path. Wish I had just a highlight button here. That would be a little bit easier. All right, so we get down here. So we have the critical path is exactly the sequence of tasks. We started at A, then we went to C. Let's see if we can scroll up and look at that again. A, C, D, F. A, C, D, F. F, H, I. There we go. that is the critical path. And we'll find that there's maybe a different way to write that a little bit later in the semester when we talk more about essentially what this thing is, and that's a graph. All right, but that is the end of the section. Yay, excellent. So thank you for your time and attention. I'll see you guys a little bit later back in the workshop to continue on in section 1.2. Have a great day.